Hi, welcome to today's video. My name's Paul. So as you can see, this week it's going to be another soft pastel landscape. I did one of these maybe 3 videos ago. That one I wasn't happy with the final painting, or at least not completely happy. This one I was much happier with the final result. There were a few problems with the previous attempt. So in the video I mentioned that I didn't like the palette that I used. There was too many colors, I felt. So I overcame that problem in this painting by sticking to a limited palette. In other words, just using fewer colors. And the color scheme was all sort of at the cooler end of the color wheel, if you like. So lots of blues, greens, purples, that type of thing. Another problem with the previous painting was it lacked a sense of depth, which for me, I'm not saying for everybody, but for me, it's very important with landscapes to get that feeling of depth. So I think you'll see in the final version of this painting, I think I was able to get that feeling much better than in the previous painting. One other problem that I didn't mention in the previous video was I wasn't happy with the composition. This painting is getting back to a more open composition, which again, just a fancy way of saying that there's no central focus for the painting. There's no center of interest. That sort of approach is something that I take from Impressionism. A lot of Impressionist paintings, not all of them, but a lot of them were open compositions. Maybe I should also mention at this point a little bit about materials and things. So these are mainly Schmincke soft pastels. There's a handful of Sennelier soft pastels in there as well. I don't know the names of all of the colors. So when you buy the pastel, it comes in a plastic wrapper with the name of the color. But I don't keep the wrappers. I take them off and break the pastels into smaller parts. So I have no idea what the colors are called. I don't think it really matters. I mean, use whatever colors that you like to use, sort of thing. The paper is pastel matte, and it's quite a small piece of paper. It's a sort of A5 size piece of paper, which I think is something like 18 by 24 centimeters. In inches, I'm not sure. Divide 18 by 2.5 and 24 by 2.5. Something like 7.5 by 9.5 inches or something. I used to be good at doing sort of mental arithmetic when I was younger. These days I'm not so good at it. I guess getting old. One other thing I should mention is I don't use any sort of fixative in the final painting. So the reason is that when I first got started doing sort of pastel paintings many years ago, I tried using a spray fixative to sort of protect the final painting. But I found that with different brands and things that I used, it kind of changed the value of the pastel, the color, and I didn't like that at all. So I kind of thought, what's the point of me choosing colors and values at the beginning if the fixative is going to change it in some sort of random way? So that's just something that I've found other people, different ideas, maybe they enjoy using fixative. I think the only time I would use a fixative is you can get some fixatives that you can spray on sort of mid-painting, and then it gives you a bit more tooth to work with to add additional layers and things. That's the only time really I would use a fixative. I was thinking this week about why I like this sort of style of painting. I often say that I do Impressionist style painting, but it's not really Impressionist painting, because the Impressionists, at least originally what the Impressionist movement was all about, was trying to capture the interaction of light with the subject matter. And that meant you had to go outside and observe and paint outside, which I don't do. I work from imagination and memory, mainly indoors. So my paintings are not Impressionist paintings, but they do borrow some of the Impressionist ideas, especially these little sort of broken patches of colour. As I was thinking, why do I prefer that style to a tighter, more sort of classical or photorealist style of painting? And at the risk of offending anybody who really enjoys photorealism, it really isn't my style at all. I can admire the skill, I can admire the patience, because I'm sure those sort of paintings take a lot longer to complete. I just can't, I don't appreciate the final result, because I look at it and I see the skill, but I don't see any art. And for me, art is, there has to be something of the artist, the painter, in the painting. It's how you see the world, or how you feel about what you're looking at. And I just love those sort of random marks and implied details. To me, it's almost like magic when you put a little mark or a scribble, and then in the final painting, people can read it as a field or a hedge or a tree or something. To me, that it is kind of magical, or it's kind of amazing how the viewer can interpret the painting, the marks on the painting. You don't get that with photorealism. Photorealism is, what you see is what you get kind of thing. And like I say, to me, that lacks art. It's more like a cold sort of a camera photograph or a photocopy machine sort of. So that might be controversial for some people, but that's, I just say what I say. That's my feelings. So as I say, this scan of this final painting, I was happier with this one, much happier than the one from a couple of weeks ago. As I think I solved a lot of the problems in terms of sense of depth, simple composition and things, and the limited palette that gives the final painting a kind of harmony that the other painting, this sort of autumn landscape, lacked. Okay, well, that's probably enough of me rambling on. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching, and hopefully see you in next week's video.